With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, how to get 30, how to get 20, 20, 20, how to get 20, 20, how to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
I'm not having it. And I was like, I don't care if you're not having it. It's not right. What you're doing is not right.
Welcome to another episode of Anxious Black Belt. Today my guest is a competition, the Great UK Karate Podcast with Andy and Chris. If you guys would like to purchase a t-shirt and upset some people with the Hikite Forever, generating power till 1966, head up to the shop. All the money goes towards supporting people with mental health. How are you guys today? Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you, Les. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, same. Really good. Thank you, Les. And thank you for having us on.
So I'm going to start with a bit of a jealousy to clear the stuff away. I love your setup for a podcast. As you can see, mine is fantastic. My son allowed me to use his bedroom, so it's top-notch quality.
Yeah.
And
I do love the Death Star behind you, Les. I am a bit of a Star Wars fan. So.
Brilliant.
He loves Star Wars, so it's all sticker on the side as well, which you can't see. But could you tell us how did you end up in doing the podcast, and then how did you end up doing karate as well?
Well,
fight between yourselves. Who's gonna start?
Well, I'll jump in there just because originally through probably like a lot of people. I mean, I think through COVID. A lot of people were either bored or like wondering like what to do if they were furloughed, which I was furloughed for about 3 weeks, and then I was back at it like pretty much all the way through then. But I'd always had the idea of that I really wanted to either do a podcast or just do some recordings of speaking to So my father taught me. He had a club, so and had been involved with karate for many years. So I wanted to speak to the people that had inspired me. That's like where it originally came from, and I was just left it. I started buying a few little bits and pieces, and then. Just bottled it really. I was just like thought about going on camera and talking, and I don't know. It was a little bit out my comfort zone, and then I think eventually I thought, no, I really want to do it. But then I thought, well, I don't know if I want to do it by myself. So then I approached Andy to see like if he'd be up for sort of like being in on it with me really, and then it went from there. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty much how it happened. Yeah, we've been going strong ever since.
Yeah. So, what did take you, Andy, into saying yes? Because I find it personally that being on your own doing podcasts is a little bit of a struggle, right? So when I have nothing to talk about, if it's two of you, you just start conversation and you're going, right? Being on your own, you have to constantly think about content, and I'm not the best of expressing my thoughts. I'm kind of have a mess in my head, so if I say what I want to say, people won't understand. But what got you into saying yes to be on a podcast with Andy? With Chris, sorry.
I've just always been fascinated by people's stories, to be fair. And I've known Chris for a long time, so a bit of background. My dad trained with Chris's dad, and that's sort of how I got into it through my dad, really. And I wanted to be like Chuck Norris as well. Don't we all though? But it's something I've always wanted to sort of do as well. Just sit here and listen to people's stories because they inspire me, and so I can keep going. And that's where it's sort of led me. And also, I've done a little bit of like recording back in my uni days. I did drama at uni. So I was like, I better use that degree for something as well. So yeah, that's how it sort of came about, to be honest.
And I think, like you said as well, Les, that it's like if you've got someone there, it's a little bit, I don't know, it's like a bit of it's like a crutch, really. You've got each other as well, like the rather than you like trying to either come up with the questions or keep the conversation going. You have got someone else there to jump in at any time, and again could take the conversation in a different route.
Exactly. You nice Andy done a nice segue into your karate journey. That's training together, so you kind of like mates from the very very early age. You've been introduced to each other as because in our club, my kids play with my friends' kids, so you've been guys knowing each other for a long time, right?
I think we met properly back. I could be wrong. I was out of karate. And I didn't return to 2021. But before that, everywhere I went, I bumped into Chris. He took his boys to the local leisure centre. I took my daughter there, and he's like, "Oh, when are you coming back? When are you coming back?" I'm like, "Yeah, I might do." And then I ended up saying yes because Chris had started doing Thursday night class. My dad was back training, and ever since then, I went back there, and that's like sort of how we got to know each other. And then Chris was like not practically, he was running our old club, and then it was sort of helping him with that as well. You just sort of get to know each other, and then I have this friendship and partnership as well. And I'll openly state as well, if it wasn't for Chris, I wouldn't be back, and B, I wouldn't have probably gone, and I wouldn't be in the position I'm in now. I got permanently injured, and it was Chris who spotted it. In fairness, because bizarrely, I don't know why I didn't feel it, but he noticed something was wrong, urged me to go get checked out, and I did. Took his advice, and I'm still here doing it. So there's that as well. Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it sort of
but our fathers had originally used to train at Newark SKC way back when. So the club would have been with the association, the KUGB back then. They were the biggest, one of the big, if not the biggest association around back in the day. So yeah, our fathers trained together at Newark, and eventually my father broke away from Newark and started a club in a neighbouring town called Southwell. And then he had that club running for a good while, and then his dream had always been to open up another club in another town near Newark called Grantham. So he approached Andy's dad and said, "Look, do you want to take on South rather than me close South, or would you like to take it on?" Because Andy's dad was I think it was a showdown at the time, and he really wanted to run his own club as well. So like he took Andy's dad William took on Southwell. My dad opened up Grantham, which I'm pretty sure he ran that for 20 odd years, I think, before he injury really. A lot injury and I think a bit of disillusionment and just just losing the love for it a little bit. Took him away for it. His knees certainly were playing him up and just couldn't quite do it as much as he used to. I think he found golf as well, and that seemed to become a new a new hobby. I always say it spoils a good walk, to be fair, but it's so that's I mean Andy's father Will and my dad Steve, they also used to work together as well for a local company, and eventually my father broke away from this work and started up his own business, and eventually Andy's dad Will came to work for as well. So we've our families have always known each other, even though I probably didn't meet Andy properly till a bit later on in both our lives. But I knew he'd done karate. I knew he was a first kyu, and he'd had a couple of attempts at going for a showdown, and been unsuccessful. And like myself, I'd failed it one time before, and then come away from karate, and then come back. I still say I must have been the oldest first kyu going, because I think I was a first kyu for about 18 years before I came back properly and just dedicated myself, big time to karate, and haven't really had too much time off since, really. But knowing what the nagging feeling was like with me, I just maybe Andy didn't know, but I just felt come on, you've got this far. You got so far. Yes, you had a couple of setbacks, but come on, let's get it over the finish line. Let's see what we can do. And Andy's father was the same. My father and some of the old Grantham and Newark boys were very instrumental in getting Andy's dad over the line for his showdown as well. He'd been unsuccessful a good few times. So it was maybe history repeating itself a little bit there, possibly. So, but I'd like to think anyone that ever came through the door at Newark, I think it's good. It's good, even if people just want to turn up and train, cool. Tell me. I'll always ask, what do you want from from a session, or from being a member at the club. If it's just turning up and doing a bit, just let me know. Then I know that. I'd prefer to know what people want. To help give them that drive. So it was really good to play I don't know, a small part in getting Andy, over the line with his showdown. I can't take or certainly wouldn't take all the credibility, because there was a few, he had people willing him on and helping him, throughout the club. So
cool. Two questions pop in. One, I'm a karate practitioner. I've got a son who is starting martial arts. Was it difficult for you guys to have your dads doing the karate? And did you try to match up their skills and achievements, or they allow you to be your own person, or putting a little bit of their goals onto you and pushing you towards it, or how does it played out?
Great question. Brilliant question. Yeah, my dad's never really. He's always been there for advice and sort of like an unofficial coach and manager, but he's never ever tried to influence me on how and what to do within karate, to be quite honest. So yeah, he was. He's not really told me what to do and how to do it, or tried to influence He just let me go my own way. I think and I will be honest, one of the things I was fearful of is being in my dad's shadow because of how good he was, and that always played on my mind. And then it's kind of like you've got to put that aside and be like, right, you are your own person. You've got to go and do what you've got to do. It's your own. It's like what we always say, isn't it? We say karate is a personal journey. For me, it was having his legacy, if you like, but then sort of at the same time carving my own legacy as well, or trying to, if you like. But yeah, that's how I do it. Yeah, because he's semi-retired anyway. If there's such a thing as semi-retirement in karate, so yeah, for that. But aside from the last time he properly coached me was he was instrumental in the showdown. So, but aside from that, he has little input. I think that's probably his own choice as well. He likes to sort of sit on the fence a lot and sort of see where things go. He did advise me about the whole political thing, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Yeah, that was the last piece of advice he gave me. Actually, yeah, definitely.
But my father was. I wouldn't say I definitely don't feel. Obviously, I was telling you before we obviously started recording. I obviously work with my father, so it's working with your father, then having to me, my father will always be like my senpai. Like he taught me as a child. I went everywhere with the Grantham team. And was lucky enough to see karate when it was not see karate, but certainly like again the old association we would have been in at that time, and the talent that was in it. Like that's where I would say I learned. Even though I was a young kid, it's like if someone said like, "Oh, where did you learn to do that?" That I was definitely watching all these other people. No one took me to the side and said, "Oh, look, this is how you do it." Really, I'm just. It's basically, yeah. I saw it. I tried to imitate it. But no. Regarding, I think in a sense, it was a shame I wasn't old enough. Like I hadn't passed my showdown by the time my father had walked away from the Grantham club. I just don't think I wouldn't have taken it on then either. I don't think I never wanted to be an instructor. I guess I still see as myself as I don't want to. I just do it now because I feel like it's the right thing to do. But I never saw myself as an instructor. I never wanted to do. I don't know. I didn't enjoy. I just went to karate just because I had mates there and it was fun. Like when I was a kid, right? And I felt awkward doing the kumite. I mean, I've always enjoyed doing kumite, but I was a bit of a shy, nervous kid, so I didn't particularly like it too much. I think my dad never pushed me to. I never did competition as a child. Never. Maybe within the club we did, but there was no pressure there. I think he just saw what I was like and was like, "I'm not going to push the issue," and then that's. That was fine by me. It was probably not until I was 17 or 18. But I just go to him advice. If I ask for advice, he gives it. He doesn't try and he's never dictated. I've never felt like I was in his shadow. I feel like I try and, when I was competing and stuff, I felt like I was trying to live up to what he and the other senior men from Grantham and Newark as well, achieved, and did. So yeah, he's always been there for guidance and anything like that. But his interest in karate is really, from someone that was so involved. He'd graded to to third dan, and was so heavily, involved in karate to like now where he's like, he just looks at it and he's like, yeah, it was just this thing I did, it wasn't, yeah, he's just it's just something he used to do really now. I think it's
cool. Interesting. The other thing you mentioned a few times was that you both failed the Shodan grading. And this kind of goes against how I teach. So can you say why have you failed your Shodan gradings? And I take it later where I'm taking it. I just want to know the story first.
Well, the time I failed mine, one of the chief instructors who was on one of the grading examiners, I think my father was there, some of the people that I'd known since I was a kid and I'd done training with, I felt like I'd had a relatively strong grading. I always feel like my kata lets me down a little bit. Like I enjoy it more now than I did back then. I thought, if I'm going to fail, it'll be kata. Like, it's just, I'm 6'3". I try and make it look right, but I just feel like being so tall and gangly. I don't know. For me, it's just a thing. I just don't think, if I'm going to fail, that would be it. Lo and behold, it was kata what I failed on. So I'd given kata only. And I went and asked the examiner, I says, Sensei, can you tell me like where I, what I could improve? I'm very self-critical, so I like to tell me where I went wrong. I'll analyze it. We'll go again. And his response was, "I've seen you do it better." And I was just like, "Oh, okay. I can't really do a lot with that." I was like, "I will try and be better next time." So I was a little bit disheartened from that, and I just, it did annoy me a little bit. But I probably took it a little bit too hard, and I had too much time. I had a bit of too much time away. Sort of spat my dummy out a little bit, and didn't want to. Didn't think just, I'm not going to bother grading. Then I just thought like that response of "I've seen you do it better" was a little bit lame, but yeah, that was me.
Yeah, surprisingly, kata. I was 16 at the time, and I thought I did really well. I thought I've nailed it. I've done it. This is it. I'm going over the finish line. I remember I think it was down in Sleaford, Spalding, somewhere like that. And Sensei Ota says, kata only. That was it. But afterwards, it was a bit of a strop. I was 16 and I quit. And I didn't go back until 2021. And the first time before that, I got hurt in the Kumite, so I couldn't even continue the grading. So,
all right,
yeah.
But it's a journey, right? Like I look back and I just look at it like that, like it happened for a reason, like that's how I look at it. It happened for a reason. Like when I came, I don't like Andy. I know how hard he trained to get his Shodan. I know the injury, like what he has, and it can't be easy to like try and be training at times with like the injury what he has. But like I'd say like when I came back and then dedicated so much time and the amount of training, like there was no like no stone unturned. There couldn't be an excuse, certainly from my part. Like like when I did pass my Shodan, like I couldn't allow myself to have an excuse, and that's the type of dedication I feel like you need, and that mindset you need when you're going into. Really, you should probably have it for every grading, but certainly like going for your Shodan, if you decide to go on from that, yes, there has to be, for me, there's got to be that dedication there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say something that's probably doesn't gonna sit with people, right? But hey ho, that's what I'm famous for. So I completely disagree with how you've been treated, right? In our association, we don't allow people to go grade if they have a possibility of failing. And the feedback for you, Chris, that I've seen you doing better is just a nonsense. if you went to grade under the instructor who knows you and seen you doing better, then you encompass, you get into your assessment the day it's stressful and you might do a few flops, right? So you should be passed, in my opinion, because it just puts the kind of blame and fault for instructors. If I know that there's chance of my students fail, then I shouldn't let them go.
Yeah, no.
You
I
should
mean,
be certain, right? But this is just mine, and as well, we do assessment before, so you passed everything, and then you're doing a display, so you're showing your best version of yourself. And because you are, like you said, I exactly know what you mean with a tall people not doing kata, aesthetically pleasing. If you're shorter, it just looks better. I think it's more compact.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be against you because you can't change that. Or
No.
you're gonna go and chop your legs for next grading
Yeah.
to make it smaller. So I think that it is, and I see that in bigger organizations, that the people fail because there is this connection between the expectation of the head of association and what actually is being taught in lower clubs, let's say on other end of the organization, and there's that miscommunication what people expect and what's done. So for us, what we're using the gradings, actual grading day, is a feedback to coaches. So if student makes a fault, it's not necessarily their fault, it's how they've been taught. So the feedback goes to a coach instead of punishing a student, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
So I think both you should pass. If you've been allowed to go for a grading, there shouldn't be. But that's how you make money as well, right? That's uncomfortable truth, but that's how the organization does money as well, right? If I fail a certain amount of people, they have to come back and pay again.
Yeah, of course.
But that's my fault, and I don't apologize to anybody if you got upset. Sorry, that's how I feel.
No, I think you're right. It's a bit like for the bigger, well, maybe even for the smaller ones as well. But for most of the associations, it's a business, right? So okay, we'll fail X amount. I'm not saying that obviously this is the way they work, but sometimes it feels that way, But you just, I don't know. It's just a business. It's a business. A business for them, and they are going to fail. I think I don't think I've ever seen a downgrading where everybody passed. It's.
It's just how the organization works. So whatever works for the people. I don't like big organization. I'm out of it for a huge amount of years. Although I am part of organizations, but not in the kind of traditional Japanese setup. We are more kind of a free cooperating dojos that meet every year and have some fun. And that's pretty much it. But speaking of organizations, I think you've been a little bit disappointed with your time in organization. I don't know if you want to go in there and chat about it, or
I don't mind. I don't mind chatting about it. All I can say is that you're in an association when you've known. I mean, I've only known two associations. Obviously we have left and joined another, but you feel it's like I guess it feels like family, right? Like it's like your karate family, I guess. And you sort of, when you go to the courses and everything, most people, not everybody obviously, but a lot of people. And then when it's when you sort of fall out of grace with them, I guess, or favor, whatever you want to call it, it's and they sort of mistreat you, and it's difficult, like when you, certainly for myself, like when I decided that I felt like I hadn't really got any other option other than to leave, especially for like my own mental health, really. It was a bit sad, really. It's there's probably, there's probably only a couple of people really now that will speak to me like from that association, which I don't think is necessarily always like their fault. I think they're just following like I don't know, like this trend or way or whatever you want to call it. It's, they don't want to be I think if they don't want to be seen, like if they speak, like if I don't know, on social media, even if they speak to I don't know if they don't want to be seen either. That's what it feels to me anyway, like they don't want to be seen speaking to you because they're going to get in trouble or something. I don't know what the reason is. It almost seems like it certainly feels the feelings of that you're inside a bit of a cult, to be honest, or like some sort of form of religion or something where it's, once you leave, you're excommunicated, sort of thing. It's even people within the club that I help, bring back from the, pretty much almost being closed, and then because of COVID and everything like that, so taking out or sort of helping run the club or running the club for the instructor while he had some time away, of like 15 members. And then probably by the time I stepped away, I think the club had got roughly around about 100 or so members, which I'd helped pretty much build up, and then let's like even there, like people from the club, some will talk, some talk to you, some don't, and some don't, and it's just really bizarre, really bizarre, it's it's like people have been forced to pick a side, and like what we've got, me, Andy, and Sean, obviously, who we have a club with, is why is there even a side? There should be zero sides, like it's not about, we're just doing karate, But I just think, like the way I've seen it myself, I've been party to it, that like when people I know have either been kicked out from the association or been forced to leave, I have like continued to speak to them, obviously, but it's just this way of like, they were once there, now they're gone, move on, like it's just very just very bizarre going on, and why people within these associations, like the general membership won't even know a lot of this stuff like goes on. It's only when you try and probably involve, like I did, like probably try and involve yourself a little bit more, or my cardinal sin was to dare to bring like different instructors from other associations, like to the club, and just have this variety. And by doing that, I was apparently committing like a cardinal sin. It's it is just like bizarre why other people would want to have a level of that, sort of like a level of control of like what you're doing. It's I'd love to just have like a conversation with a proper like psychologist about like why these people like think but like just to think like they're obviously quite narcissistic, and it's I was just thinking the other day, it actually feels quite nice, like for them to have zero. They can't, they could pick up the phone to me if they wanted to, but it just feels great that they can have zero say in what I'm doing. And I was more fool me for letting me thinking that they did have a say in that regard. But that's the mindset that you get in, right? You're in this. Oh yeah, I must obey my instructors above me,
Yeah, definitely. It's very like regimented, isn't it? Like you daren't question anything. It's, to be fair, it's probably one of the most surreal sort of experiences, to be quite honest. And because like you read about it all the time, or you see about it in this cult-like behavior, but when you're sort of like, as Chris said, when you're in it, you're not like you don't think it exists. But it's only when you like come out of it, it's like, wow, that is what was going on. I was being controlled. I was a soldier, if you will, in an organization, and I was, in a sense, being manipulated as well.
For sure. Yeah, it's funny because martial art I always compare to a religion. It's like you're stepping into religion, and you need to bring your religion to other people. So discover, so you're promoting my style is the best, and we're doing this stuff best. And then when you try to leave, it's just try to hold you and try to destroy you. So for myself, I left one of the organizations for a very similar reason to you, Chris, because I tried to train with other people and bring them to teach on my seminars, and I've been told, no, you can't do that because we don't like that person. Well, then goodbye. That's my resignation letter. See you later. And then it started, oh, he's such a bad person. He was lying about this. He's doing this. So you don't go to like a bowling club and say that, oh, hey, you cannot go to the other bowling matches or clubs. And then when you leave, nobody tries to destroy you, right? It's only karate that's trying to really influence your way forward.
Ultimately, anyone that's walking through the door and paying to train is you're the paying customer. Like the club paid its affiliation fee, all the members paid their license, their license fees. I'd get like, oh, it's going to come down to like loyalty, and I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, or I pay my license fee, all the club members pay their license fee, we pay our affiliation fee. Like what what loyalty are you talking about here? Like, we pay our way, we have the grading examiners, we try and get to whatever courses we can, we try and support the competitions, like what madness are you talking? It's like just manipulation at like every turn, like trying to, like coercive. It's just like coercive control, like that's all, all it is. And I was saying on a podcast, hopefully it's coming out very soon. Like you look at like the amount of like young, I don't know, just the amount of talented individuals, male, female, that have been in all sorts of associations that have either left like disillusioned or kicked out. These really talented people. And it's such a waste. Like these people either probably might not practice karate anymore, or maybe they do, but just not a lot. It's just, for me, it's criminal that like all this talent has been wasted over the years, that because there hasn't been a correct, a right pathway forward for the younger generation. You've just, like the older generation, they have all the experience and everything, but that for me there should be like more of a pathway within these associations to allow the younger generation, because eventually it'll just get, okay, if you do this, then in a year or two you could be here, and then obviously a couple of years or two goes by, oh, not just yet, not just yet, like, and it's just keep them down, keep them down, keep them down. Like there has to be a better way forward, because ultimately, like it is then going to fragment the associations or fragment karate even more. I mean, obviously, I don't even know how many associations there are now. Like you lose count,
Yeah.
And it's such a shame, like, oh, we can't go to their competition because we don't like them. Why don't we like them? Oh, we just don't like them. And it's like, okay, and like you just think if we could all just find, if there could be found a way forward, like Stuart Amos senses, like karate without borders, like just like try and like let's forget the old whatever kicked all the aggravation off between one association and the other years ago. Come on, let's try and find a way forward that we can either train together, but I just don't know if it will, because it's probably going to come down to like someone needs to be making the money, and like it's going to come down to financial, and like eventually it's the art the art is what it will suffer. Karate will suffer in the long run. So
yeah. It's kind of like, and I was thinking about this the other day, it's kind of like a silent civil war. You've got those who are willing to collaborate with people, train wherever they want, and then you've got the ones who are stuck in their organization, and they're like, right, this is our way of karate, that's it, and they're just going onwards, and trying to, discredit ones who are seeking collaboration and want to train with other people, because in effect, all Chris was doing was he was giving the students what they wanted. When Chris came back, the students said they wanted to train with other instructors. And then, it all got interesting.
Yeah,
But
I mean, some of the instructors we had, all of them were fantastic. Everybody enjoyed it. And not one person ever said, "Oh, I didn't enjoy that" or anything. And I mean, even some of the grief we got from like the association, certain individual, he says, "Oh, why have you had that person? Like, what can, it's almost like, what can they teach you?" And it's like, I was like, they are like far more, I don't know, like they've got far more experience, and like again, if it was like someone we got in that was Kumite based or whatever, the amount of accolades and things that they'd done and what they'd achieved and what they could teach us, it's like this person is like the guy, the guy that was asking me this from the old association, and it's like, he had nothing on like this, like one of the instructors that we had, and it's just like, I don't. Again, is it control? Is it finance because they've seen how many people like that have come to the course, or I don't. I ultimately don't understand. I still don't understand. Like, why wouldn't you want to train with other people that you could learn something from? There's so many people out there, and I think that's what COVID did for a lot of people, is that they're all in their own associations and the blinkers are on, and then when they've got sat at home, and some of these big associations were left sleeping a bit, and they weren't doing stuff online for people, they were able to see that there was other instructors out there doing stuff for free, maybe not doing stuff for free, but there was other instructors going, wow, these people are good. How come I've never heard of them? And then it just opens their eyes, that yes, because a lot of the other associations were the best. You don't need to train with anyone else, and it's to me that's like madness. I just don't get it.
It is
kind it is like, we joke about Cobra Kai, and we laugh about it, how there's these two rival dojos, but in a sense, it is what it's like. It is like a dojo and organization literally trying to destroy each other, and it's madness, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think that because of the advent of internet, and you can look how good people are online and how many choices you've got. Literally, you don't have to have an invitation. You just rock up, pay, and you can take part in whatever course you want. And those big organizations start seeing that the people slip through their fingers, so they need to tighten the grip to hold you in. So don't go there because they might be a bit more awesome than we are, and then you're gonna leave. It all comes for me from insecurity and the thirst for power and money. That's pretty much it. What I think.
It is. You're absolutely right, Les. I mean, the thing that like really just the tipping point for me, I think, was just when our friend Sean, he's competing, and he was on the he was on the JK England squad. Was lucky enough to go out to Japan for the World Championships, along with a couple of other students from Newark at the time. And the night, he messaged me from Japan like the night before, saying that this certain individual had said, like, it looks like Chris, or possibly Chris and the club, might get kicked out of the association. And this was like the night before he was like going to compete at the World Championships, right? And like Newark had managed to raise some money, like the parents and other people. We had a GoFundMe, had helped raise money to get these 3 students to the World Championships. And I was just like, this is absolutely insane. Like, it's like, why would you bring this up to somebody like the night before he was going to compete? Like he would have known that Sean would message me, and I was just like, well, I'll keep quiet for now, and then I'll just wait till everyone's back in the UK, and then I'll just message this person privately. But luckily, like, Sean's mentally stronger than that, right? Like anyone else, some people might have let that get in there, that like, oh, the club that they've belonged to their whole life, or like, their good friend that got them back into training is going to be like, kicked out of the association. I was just like, this is just unreal, and just waited till they got back into the country, and then messaged this person, and let them have it really over a message, and just said, look, basically, like, you've got my number, we've known each other a long time, like, why wouldn't you reach out to me? Why does it, anytime I was getting a lot of grief, it would always come through the students, like the students to me. Sometimes it would come directly, but other times it was like coming through the students.
Yeah, it's lack of courage, right? It's easier to say about somebody to somebody else instead of interface. You might be bit punched,
Yeah.
Well, I just let this person out, as like it was well out of order, and just let rip really, and then they almost called me back instantly, just saying, "Oh, I'm not having it," and I was like, I don't care if you're not having it. It's not right. What you're doing is not right. But yeah, it's just like you're getting that grief, and it's little and little and little over time. It doesn't seem much at the time, but I think it mentally just wears you down. And it was just, I think after that, I think we'd got not long. I think I decided to step back around about then, and I think it was, we had not long after that, I think we had John Gardner come and teach, because that was like one last session that I'd got booked in, and then like I hadn't really got anything else in the pipeline. And it was just talking with John Gardner, saying that like he'd had enough of like associations and people like trying to tell you what to do, and it just says it just seems mental that you'll let other people tell you like what to do in a a martial art or a hobby that you just enjoy doing. We're not making a living out of it. We're certainly not making a living out of it. We just do it like because we enjoy it. And then that was it. Just made the decision. That was it. Yeah, I won't be back. But at that point, it like probably grind me down quite bad, to the point where I was like, I'm just going to take my gear outside and set fire to it. To be honest, it was just like, like I know that sounds extreme, but like that's sort of like where my mind had gone with it. It was like, I was like, well, I'm not going to renew my license. The club were like, well, if you don't renew your license, you can't teach. And like it was just like, well, and then it was like, then there was like, oh well, you can teach, but you can't really ever say anything about it and stuff like this. And it's like, well, my own children like train here, like either with me or like with others at the club, and then you do want me to teach or you don't want me to teach. It's like, but I'm not paying that association one more penny out of my pocket. That's the way I look. Again, that's the way, like, I looked at it. It's like, you want to do right by the club, and you feel a little bit let down. I feel a little bit let down by the club, but they're just like not, that's all they know. They're not involved in it. You see, they're not the ones getting the phone calls. They're not getting the messages. They're not, and it was hard, like when you leave, I'm not expecting everyone to walk out the door. Like, I wasn't expecting anyone to walk out the door with me. I didn't even know I was going to do karate again. I was at that point where I was like, I don't even, like, the love for it has literally just been eroded away. But then when Sean decided to leave as well, because they tried to control him, Andy also, like it was nice to see my 2 buddies decide to leave, but I certainly advised like Sean to stay for a bit longer, like to achieve some more in competition, which is crazy when you think about it. It's like, yeah, stay and be mentally manipulated some more, like you're sort of still within that like that mindset. But certainly the men, like, and even it's funny, the people even who you thought in the club were like might like stand by you, tumbleweeds, or even some people, some people even within the club that would try and take advantage of you, that were like when you're in a bit of a mentally not right place, so it's a little let down by certain few. Am I surprised? No. Like,
I often, most of my work is promoting karate as a tool to make your mental health better. But I always said that it all depends on the instructor. If you've got the instructor and organization who is positive, then you have a positive outcomes. And I think you are the best example. You guys are the best example of having a negative mental health because of how the karate instructors behave and kind of grind you down, like you said, and stuff. Did you have anybody from the top of the organization reaching out that, hey, maybe we done something wrong, maybe we just have to stay, we can improve stuff? Or was just like, oh, okay, you're going, bye?
I did speak to like a senior person who I respected, like I do respect very much, and he again, he's like he's a lifer that's in there, right? Like he understands, so he says, like, but he's also towing the party line, I guess, of you shouldn't be having these instructors come and teach, pretty much. And I always used to say, look, I'll take what you're saying on board, but I'm just going to do what I want to do, because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not hurting the association financially. You're still making the same money from us, like, it's not, to me, I always thought a bit of give and take, it was always like, oh, but we don't want to see it on social media. So originally that was, you wouldn't put it on social media. I'd let the instructors that would come and teach, I'd say, yeah, you put it on your social media if you want. I wouldn't put it on the club social media. And I always felt like that was a good compromise. But then eventually, as it got on, I was like, why are we even hiding this? We're doing a good thing here, it's just.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I just to be clear, I wasn't told by nobody in our previous organization, the JKA, told me what I can and can't do. So although I left because obviously what they did to Chris, what was going on with Sean as well, having known them for a considerable amount of time, that was one reason. And then the other reason was I knew, and this might sound a bit crazy, but I myself had sort of become a target in a way, and I was sort of guilty by association. So I was on the Facebook, I was kicked out of the Facebook group of the JKA by a certain individual. That certain individual blocked me. I think previously, before that, myself and Chris were told by a certain individual that we can't have this person on the podcast. If you do, you're going to get kicked out, into trouble. And it's like, well, hang on, the podcast is an independent project between ourselves. It's, we have who we want on. And when Chris and Sean both left, I'll never forget this. I was at a club meeting because I stayed a little bit longer than Sean, and I was sat there and we were talking about what was going on with the club, and a parent was sat probably not far from me and basically said, I don't think it's appropriate that Andy is a member of a independent karate group. And I sort of just look at this parent and I look at I don't know why I glanced at the person sat next to me as well. And then I just sort of said, well, I will always be an advocate for independent karate, because I feel you have to go and train with anybody else you can. And I'm a bit of a geek, and I do have like a list of instructors that I want to go and train with. And I remember glancing over in the direction of the chief instructor, and I knew then as I said that, even though at the time I decided to stay, I knew I was going to end up potentially in a situation where I was not forced out, but I knew I was going to have to leave at some point. And that as well, and I didn't agree with what was going on because it's wrong. And I think the club should have backed Chris. They should have backed Sean, even if they didn't perhaps agree. I think the situation could have got or handled. I suppose the word I'm looking for. The situation could have been handled better if someone just stepped in and said to a certain individual, right, you lay off, you stop all communication and just sit back, like mediate between both parties. But nobody did that. Because of that, the situation just allowed it to go on and on and on until it's getting to the point where people are leaving. And I just find that, to me, it's baffling. It really is baffling. And I do think other heads of the further up the hierarchy, they do know about it. They know what's going on, but I've never really understood why they've not sort of come down and said, right, well, you're making people leave. Stop what you're doing. They've never done anything to sort of stop the behaviour. I think that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, even like Sean's known some of these instructors like his whole life, and some of them couldn't even, even still haven't like picked up the phone and just said, how you doing? You all right? Even if they're happy staying and we've gone, like, I think it's just, it is bizarre. It is a cult without a doubt. I'm so positive, like, these associations are so close to, if they're not exactly a cult, they're so close to like being like that. It's just the childish things of like, I still, in one sense, all the people that I knew there in the club or the association, I wish them all well. Like, I don't wish them like any ill will, but like just the childishness of like being blocked from like the seeing like the old associations like social media pages and stuff like that. You're like, oh, get a grip. Are we children? Are we? But it strikes me down. This person that we've generally got most of the argument with, I'm not surprised with this person. It's just, it's just petty and childish. That's all it is. And it was when it was like you're breaking the rules. That's what you get. You're breaking the rules. So like in my last ditch attempt to try and argue my point was like, I'm asking around all the like instructors that I know that have been around for years, going, have you got like the association like rule book or something? And like all of them are going, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, because I'm like, show me, like in a desperation, I think it was like, show me this rule, and I says, I will cease and desist. Like that, like that'll be fine. Show me the rule that I'm supposed to abide by, and like obviously. It's invisible, it was written with invisible ink because like nobody has seen it, like they've misplaced this invisible book. So yeah, it's just coercive control comes down to coercive control and money. That's pretty much what I've just come, that's
yeah.
So how does the feel now to be in an organization that is better? Because you said you joined a new organization, and I hope you are treated fairly.
Yeah, the HDKI we joined, and I'll be honest, it is like polar opposites. Like with the members, everyone's. You'll find probably in that association a lot of people that have probably joined the HDKI, this is just my opinion, is that a lot of people have been like ourselves, have either been mistreated or, have had an issue with an association somewhere down the line, and they have, they've found this like common ground on, with the HDKI, and just it is like a breath of fresh air. They've got Stuart Amos there again, like I'm saying, pushing this, like, which started out as a bit of a joke, I guess, talking with Stuart, this karate without borders, but that's taken a life of its own as well, really, because it's true. Like, and he's very much for like, let's have a dialogue with these and see if we can train with them. And if we can't, what's the way forward? How can we, remend a path between, some cross training or whatever, and they very much do want you to obviously promote within, but they are very open to, getting, outside instructors in. It doesn't matter. And you almost think, God, why didn't we do this years ago? That's me. I mean, I'm just finding my feet again with sort of like with teaching and training, like I say, my motivation for karate in general, and just even with the podcast, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to do any of it anymore, and thanks to Andy and Sean for just like going with the club and, just sort of support, I can't thank them enough for just being supportive towards me, and quite a few people within the HDKI as well. Stuart for one, Simon Bly, John Gardner as well. He's, he might not think he's been that supportive, but he has been. And it's I'm getting there myself, and I'd like to think I'll be up and back up at full speed again, maybe next year. But I'm just taking it steady at the moment.
Cool.
It's like you've opened the doors, and there's this like wide karate community you never knew existed at all, and it's really surreal. So we went to a squad training not so long ago, open squad training for everybody, and like in certain organisations, it's sort of like us and to the main instructor, and that's it. You wouldn't have a conversation with them at all. You'd just be like, you bow, they us sensei, and that's it. And the HDKI, no matter who it is, they're brilliant in the way of you can have a conversation with them about anything. And there's no...
It's just more open, isn't it?
That's it, yeah, it's more open. Although there is hierarchy, it's like you can have a conversation about anything, and you can message them about anything to do with karate that you want to know. I mean, for example, Julie Nicholson sensei, I had a conversation with Julie Nicholson sensei when we did squad training. It was about karate. Just be able to like have that conversation with them was pretty good. It was great, because in other organizations you don't get that. You don't get that at all. It's non-existent, and it's lovely how people are so open and people are so nice and welcoming to you as well. Because I was probably similar maybe to Chris. Like when I first left, it was like, I've left everything I know behind, everyone I knew behind in a way, and it's changing. And I think also as humans, we struggle with change. So then it was initially like getting over that, and then just settling in, and it's been brilliant. And they encourage collaboration as well, like Chris touched on, with anybody. We can train with anybody we want to, and it's just brilliant.
And for one thing for me is that they are, they're very active in trying to promote the younger generation as well. And no, I'm not talking about myself personally. For me, like Sean, who's really our instructor really now, like I see him as a very, very like talented, young guy, and they have been like promoting him to do a course with Stuart Amos, which he did not long ago. And that's, for me, that's what it's about. Promote the younger generation. The old guard have definitely got their place, and everything, but open it, be supportive of the younger generation. Otherwise, you're just going to have the same repeat. People will get to a certain level and then just disappear because they get disillusioned or whatever. So they are, I see in that sense, they are, they're a breath of fresh air for me personally.
Yeah, so definitely.
Great to hear that. I see a lot of activity for that organization on online. Quite a few friends are members as well, and I never had anything wrong being said about the organization. So I also looking forward to chatting to John next week. I've got him next week.
I spoke to him yesterday, and he said he was coming on. Yeah,
it's going to be good.
How do you guys choosing your guests, and what are the criteria for your podcast? Changing the subject from the agreement of organizations.
No criteria. If you've been doing, personally, it's nice to see if someone's been doing karate for like a good few years. There isn't like technically, I wouldn't say we've ever sat down to think anyone must fit this criteria. It's just we'll reach out to people, speak to them if they want to do it. They want to do it. If they don't, they don't. A bit like yourself. If they want to talk about certain things, good. If they don't, no problem. It's more just wanting to hear. Again, this was for I think Andy's the same, but like wanting to hear their journey. Like we've mentioned it on the podcast a lot that I've reached out to quite a few people. And there was quite a few people I wanted to speak to in the old association, and then a lot of them just used to give me the same answer. Oh, I didn't really do much in competition. I don't really have that many accolades. I don't really think I've got much of a story. And I was like, well, how long have you been training? And it's like, oh, yeah, like 30 years, 40 years. Like, then you have a story. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like, but again, I think that's something that's been built into people within the association as well, of that, you have nothing to offer, like it's, there's that sort of like negative jibe there that people feel like they're not good enough. And it's like they are good enough. They've been doing it for so long. They have a story. Fair enough if they just don't want to talk to us. That's fine. Just say it. I'd rather someone say, we just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But again, people that we see that we want to talk to, or Chrissy Howard, who we had on recently. I mean, I really felt like I related to some stuff she was saying. I really liked her. I had until someone had said, "Look, Chris, I think you should have Chrissy on. She's been there, seen it, done it. A hell of a story, And I was actually quite nervous going into that podcast because it was actually the first person I had no idea who she was or anything like that. But that's what makes it interesting, right? Like. Me and Andy, we've never met. We've spoke briefly on like social media, but yeah, definitely no real criteria at all. Like Andy, if you're the same, but I just want to speak to anyone and everyone, really.
Same. I don't have any criteria. I just think there's a lot of people out there whose story you don't even know about, and it's like, why don't we know about it?
It could be someone who was disillusioned. It could have been someone who was disillusioned years ago and has, just had their own club or doing their own thing, got years of experience. Again, won't know who they are, but if someone says, oh, have you heard of this? But they'd be worth talking to, or even if they reach out to us and said, oh, look, I've been doing karate so long, reach out to us and, we'll speak, we'll speak to you, it's, yes, just I think as well as some instructors as they do get older, or might have ill health or anything like that. I just want to get these stories down on video as well, just like a bit like wanting to get whatever their story, their history. Let's get it down so people like know it. Like it's all these people have a story to tell, and it's all valid and it's all worthy of everybody to hear. Like. I don't know, I just want to hear their stories.
And they're brilliant stories as well. They're really brilliant. It's like, we've had Chrissy Howard, Dean Hodgkin recently, and it was just a brilliant story. Just knowing the ups, the downs, what they went through to get where they wanted to be within karate. it's inspiring, and it makes you think as well. When you get knocked down or you have a setback, it's kind of like, well, hey, Dean Hodgkin managed to get through that. I can get through that. And it's kind of like it builds your own resilience up in a way. It's just fascinating.
And what karate mean? You know, what karate means to each individual can be so different as well. You know, like you said, like karate should be like good for your mental health. You know, maybe in like my instance where what was good for my mental health like became toxic to my mental health. You know, and that was the real, you know, the real thing for me. Like, my God, I've been doing this to keep myself, you know, straight and like right, and you know, but it's it's bring on anyone and everyone that'd like to do it. I mean, we try and do one a month because we all work. And to be honest, the hardest thing is trying to get me and Andy and one of the other guy that does the podcast with us, James, who you don't see on camera. You know, he does a lot of the editing and stuff like that, and the flicking between the cameras, the live editing with flicking between the cameras. You know, big shout out to James because he does a big part of the work. And you know, but trying to get all three of us and a guest either in the room or on a Zoom call or on FaceTime can be hard work sometimes.
Tell me about it. the logistic is the most complicated stuff I'm finding, just to try to fit everybody in the same time and man, especially if you start talking with people in different time zones like New Zealand and Australia and States. It's just like, oh, what time I have to get up to talk to you?
But it's breaking, but it's trying to break down barriers as well. Of like, yeah, of course, okay. Years ago we were KUGB, then we were JK England. You know, now we're HDKI, whatever. Like, even if we were on our own and not doing it, it's a non-political thing. I do like me and Andy, James. We do not care like what association or, you know. Hopefully, like one day, you know, I'd like to branch it out to maybe some different like styles. Hopefully, it'll go that way. Like eventually. But like, yeah, we just want to talk to people who love martial arts or do martial arts. That's it. We're just, you know, we're just non-political. We're not trying to like cause an upset with anybody. We're not trying to get anybody into any trouble if that's what they might think. Like, we just want to talk about the martial art that we love. That's it.
Sorry to break it to you. You will. I had few people coming to me that, you know, because they've been on my podcast, which I'm not associated with anybody, they've been in trouble with their association because they haven't talked much enough about the association. They didn't promote it too much. They talked to me outside of their permission. I know there's one really high status teacher who is preventing his disciples to talk to me. Because
it's crazy. It's
because
just
politics.
But it's crazy. It's just crazy. Like when the old association tried to like have it was like, again, I don't know if the higher ups knew that this was being said to us, but like when it was said like, oh, you know, if you have these certain people on, you'll get kicked out. It's like, why do you even care about like a non-political like podcast? You know, like, what are you talking about? You know, they're just madness.
It's interesting, Les, how you said that, because when we were back in the old association, Chris had left. It was everybody, well, not everybody, but two people who we were going to interview at some point. And even I was still in the JK, and we talked amongst ourselves. And it's like, well, okay, well, you know, you do the JKA side, you're still in the JKA. You know, we do the non-JKA side, but that wasn't good enough. And it was funny enough. It was actually when we had John Gardner over as well, getting messages that no, can't do your podcast anymore, can't do the podcast anymore. Within, one after the other. It's just like, why? Just because somebody's not in the same organisation anymore. It's a bit mad, isn't it? Mad.
I do think these bigger associations, it might not happen like right now, but it's just gonna end in ruin for them, because it's just people. It's just a very backward way of going on.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It is very true. Hey guys, what's your future plans for the podcast? How big you gonna get? Joe Rogan should be afraid now.
if Joe Rogan wants to come on the podcast, that'd be awesome. So, you know.
Joe, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Shout out to Joe.
For me, like anybody, I've been, you know, Andy talks to people. I talk to people. You know, it's. I wish there was like we could say there was like some method in the madness. Some months you think, oh my god, I don't know who we're going to have on, and then suddenly, like you know, you get it's like you get it sorted out. But you know, just I just. Again, anybody and everybody is valid. You know, like I just want to speak to anyone. There's in particular, you know, again, it's hard to say if you said a name like, oh yeah, that person. Sure, I'd want to speak to them. You know, like it really is as simple as that. You know, I would like to talk with an old instructor of mine, which is intimated, like you know, would do it, but that's. Sensei Bob Rhodes, he graded me like most of my Q grades. You know, he's like, I think he's like, if he's not 80, he might be 80 next year. You know, I'd love to speak to him because you know he was very instrumental in my younger years, and certainly like when I had him come teach at the dojo. Or some years ago now, but I mean, he'd had like heart surgery, and he says, I've had heart surgery, I can't do anything right now. And I says, well, I'm a man of my word, you know, when you're up and healthy, you know, I'll have you at the dojo, you know, and I'm a man of my word, and I did, you know, and yeah, I'd love to speak to him, you know, because he's just got such a rich history. But again, that's one name I could give you. I mean, we could sit here and rattle off a million names, you know, like so. Yeah. But it's trying to find a nice balance. I'm very big on, you know, like trying to promote the women in karate as well, you know, and it's I think, you know, that's going forward. If any women see this your podcast or our podcast, you know, please get in touch, and you know, would love to have you on. You know, the women need more of a, you know, they have more of a voice in karate than they would have done, you know, when me and Andy started. But you know, we want to try and keep that rolling. You know, the women deserve a lot louder voice in karate.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we do.
Give some shout outs where people can find your podcast, your club, and so on.
Well, they can find the podcast, the UK Karate Podcast, on YouTube or Spotify. You'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, and if anyone's ever in Newark and you want to come train, you can train at the Shinkakai Dojo. You'll find us Shinkakai Dojo on Facebook and Instagram as well. Yeah. Doors always open. Anyone can come in anytime. Doesn't matter the association. Doesn't matter any affiliation. Just come on in and let's train.
Come and train.
Leave the politics out the door. Let's go.
Yes, cool. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, for your time. And I'm sure that your podcast is gonna grow. I wish you all the best. And
likewise,
looking forward to your more of your interviews. Take care.
Thank you, and we'll get you on the pod. We'll get it sorted and get you on the podcast as well, Les. All right.
Always.
This is great.
So, well done for listening to all of it. You are a superhero. Thank you very much for your support. And if you could leave us that review on a podcast platform, that would be amazing. I appreciate your time, appreciate your support, and I wish you all the best until the next one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.